Hi everybody, this is my first video on Sui blockchain and I'm very excited to talk about some both technical concepts but hopefully I'll explain them in a way that everybody can understand and give you an idea of why Sui could be the next large blockchain. And it has seen a meteoric rise in the first year of going, mainnet going live. It became top 10 DeFi chain and now it's dropped a bit. So that was I think January of this year. And now it's dropped to number 12, but it's still right behind Bitcoin, which is also right behind, I believe, Base and Optimism. So those four, Base, Optimism, Bitcoin, and Sui are currently almost neck and neck. And I think after you hear this video, you'll understand why Sui has gotten here and why it has potentially a bright future and why it'll probably beat Solana and replace Solana in the next year or two. But let me start first on this article with a great image, which I love this image because it's gonna obviously evoke some emotion in people. And here you can see, first of all, you have to read this article if you want to know if you're technical at all. It's very, very long, but it's really great to understand the difference between Rust and Move and Solidity and why Move language, specifically Move for Sui, which is its own flavor of a smart contract language, how it's designed for blockchains and why it's far more secure. Now, why are we talking about Move? Do you even care, right? Of course, as a user, you're like, whatever. But if you look at this cool image here, I think it kind of accurately represents our evolution of languages, right? That are used for smart contract development from the good old Solidity to Move. Now, this is not a historical timeline because Rust was actually created or started being created 8 years before Solidity. So this isn't historically accurate, but this is more accurate in terms of how it was applied in blockchain. Solidity was applied in blockchain development first, in smart contract development first, and then Solana came along. Maybe Rust was used somewhere else, I'm not sure, but like for Solana, mostly Rust is used to create smart contracts. But then came Move. And Move basically looked at all of this and took the best concepts. This article, which is extremely long but extremely good, goes into great detail, right, as to what both see the length of a smart contract doing the same thing, the simplicity, the specific safety checks, etc. And it's wonderful. Just read this. Even if you don't understand half of the terms, I think it will really help you understand the foundation of Sui and why Move was developed. Now, why do we talk about it? You can say, hey, Solidity is, first of all, Solidity is shit, okay? I think any developer that ever programmed Solidity knows it's a crap language. But you can say, okay, yeah, maybe it's crap language. Yeah, maybe it's, hard to make secure Solidity smart contracts, which is why I call it inherently insecure language, even though I know all languages are not inherently insecure. But it's hard to make code securely in a language. If it's hard enough, I call the language inherently insecure because, it's just if it's hard enough to code securely, it means most developers are going to make mistakes, which means most developers are going to write code that has exploits, backdoors, whatever, and that's just not acceptable, especially on the blockchain. So everybody knows Solidity is a piece of shit, but it is the most commonly used because it was the first one, and so it became the most highly commonly implemented. It's easy to find documentation on it. It's easy to find help online. And of course, Ethereum is king. Now, Solidity is not Ethereum. Ethereum is awesome. Okay, Ethereum as a concept, as there's so much more to Ethereum. The structure with the science of it, there's so much about it, right? That is, it's great. But the language itself is crap. So we all know that. All the developers know that. But it's really hard to switch away because Ethereum has a TVL that is 10 times higher than the next competitor, right? Almost. So it just became like a commonplace. It's the same way as C language. Think about a lot of these day zero exploits and vulnerabilities that we have in almost all our software and all of our devices. Almost all of them have to do with C language. C and C++ have tremendously increased productivity of developers, when they were invented in the, 60s or 70s. And that was a great move forward, but they gave developers so much flexibility that it's easy to make mistakes, and it's really hard to find. It's really, 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 really hard to write 100% secure C programs or C++, and especially in code bases that become large, which a lot of that's a lot of code bases, right? You're writing an operating system, it's going to be humongous, and the chance of you introducing many vulnerabilities is almost 100%. And so in fact it is 100% because every operating system has these vulnerabilities. So almost all day zero attacks you hear about, the exploits, etc., have to do with the base language being very hard to write securely for, like to write secure programs with. So I call these languages inherently insecure. C and C++ are, in my opinion, inherently insecure languages because they guarantee exploits when the code base is big enough, right? And I know there are some purists there who are going to argue, just like, if you only have, people learn how to code properly, and of course, if you have 1,000 other people check your code, yeah, you're going to catch most of those. But I've never seen, come on, like everything is insecure. All your devices are hackable, etc., and almost all of that has to do with C, and there's a few other languages that are similarly low level that are also hard to code for. So that's, okay, so why are we talking about it then? If that's how the world is, like what can we do about it? Well, now we're creating this new blockchain ecosystem. We have a chance to create something better, right? If you start with a language that's more secure, concept, which means much easier to write secure code for, right? A language where it's much harder for developers to introduce insecure code, right? Language itself has guardrails that throws errors and tells developers, no, this is wrong. You can't do this here. You can't do that here. If you try that, that's going to be, that could leak, that could create vulnerability, etc. If you do that, then everything built on top of it is just going to be, have way less vulnerabilities. So why wouldn't we do that? And of course, that's what we can do that. And over the years since C was invented, there's been a number of new languages that have addressed the issue. And slowly, developing world is switching to that. Recently, we've had Zig, we have Go, we have Rust, have a slew of others. And, the hope is that over time, people will switch to these new languages that are just much easier and better to program with and have less attack surface, so to speak, because it's harder for developers to make mistakes. So, Move for Sui, which is a flavor of Move language, which itself is based on Rust, was created with that exact idea in mind. If we create a language that is far more secure than other languages, that means it's much harder to write insecure code in, then we'll have a great foundation for the rest. Now, does that mean that Sui blockchain is going to be a lot better just because the language is better? Of course not. There's so much that goes into the blockchain, from the code for validators, from the, how you structure your system, whether it's POS, in Sui case, it's delegated POS, etc. Like there's a ton that goes into blockchain. There's a lot of marketing. You have to, they have to spin up the ecosystem, which in and of itself is like chicken and egg thing, right? You can have the best possible language, the best possible technology, but if nobody knows about it, nobody uses about it, it's pointless. So yes, but assuming you can execute on all these other levels, if your core is the best, it's gonna fuel the rest, right? If it's easier for developers to create secure and contracts with less lines of code, and it doesn't take as much learning as say Rust, then that would mean that developers that are switching to you or considering to switch to you have a better time. Now that means faster adoption, and for the users, because there's higher security, and the speed is still very great, and it's because Move like Rust is very fast, then you have all the ground, you have the seeds, and from which the blockchain ecosystem can spring. Now, why did I say at the beginning that I think it might overtake Solana? It's because Solana and Sui are quite similar. They're very fast. The transactions are super quick. It's very cheap because, again, the execution of code is cheap on the systems. In general, the main difference to me, as far as I know today, is Solana is using Rust, although you can also write in C for smart contracts, which I think is a terrible mistake. Or on Sui, you can use Move. So if you have inherently better language for your smarter contracts, and the rest of your system is similar in terms of speed and efficiency and so forth, but you have a more secure base, over time, assuming enough marketing and assuming, propagation, obviously over time, the more secure system and the system that's simpler to write for should win. The general thing here, awesome article, Move for Sui is designed to write smart contracts faster and more safe, more securely, in a more secure way than Rust, which is what people use for Solana. The blockchain itself, Sui is just as fast in terms of transactions. It's very cheap in terms of transaction cost. So given all of that, and there are actually some interesting things on Sui language itself, like in terms of kiosks, sponsored transactions, and there are features of the language itself that some other languages don't have, so they're very interesting. With all of that, I mean, honestly, giving enough time, giving enough marketing, which is what this program that I've joined, Think Sui, is about, is, it pays people to just make content, any content. They don't tell us what to do. We just pick whatever we want. So I looked into Sui and I learned about the underpinnings of the language and that side of it. And so I decided to make a video. And then my next video is going to be probably how to make your first Sui app, because I looked on YouTube and there's no examples. But once we propagate this information about the language and why it's actually superior in its technical underpinnings to another language, and enough people start switching to it, and like we said, the TVL of Sui has been rising very fast, a meteoric rise really in the last year. It's why would somebody use another language, right? I don't know. I mean, we'll see. But at least it's a contender, which to me is a huge deal, because if you're out there, by the way, if you're a degen and you're looking for the next thing, obviously you want to look at the thing that has a great potential to at least be a contender, even if they don't win, right? If Sui is a contender for Solana, guys, that's, not financial advice. This is an educational video, but I think we all know if something is about to become a contender, there could be a great opportunity in that area, right? So that's why I'm looking at Sui, and I think it's worth a look for anybody who's interested in identifying new and upcoming blockchains. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. I don't know. I don't know what to do with my hands. It's like the first video. How do I? I need to do one of those. No, I don't know. I'm also still sick, so maybe a bit delirious. But I'll see you. Yeah. No, that's shit. I'll see you next time.